Hi, this is Luka Doncic,
Hi, I'm Kyrie Irving,
and you're listening to the Mavs Step Back Podcast.
Doncic has the ball, down by 2. There's the switch. Gobert's out there. Doncic maneuvers for the lead. Got it! What a shot! Dallas has taken the lead.
Kleber inbound. Kleber looking in for Irving. Irving for the win! A southpaw finish from Kyrie Irving! Just absurd!
How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined yet again by my co-host, Drew Johnson. We are getting closer and closer to the start of the regular season. The Mavs now have 3 preseason games under their belt. The latest one was a matchup against the Los Angeles Clippers, the Mavs' heated rival over the last several years. It was the first ever game played at Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. Just an unbelievable job Steve Ballmer did with that new arena. Very state-of-the-art, very, tech-savvy. It's all the concessions and I think even all the souvenir, everything you get there is like contactless. So they're trying to like streamline fans getting back to their seats quicker and stuff like that. So really cool stuff. And, the Mavs, they were without Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. PJ Washington did make his preseason debut, but ultimately the Mavs lost 110-96. They fell to 0-3 on the preseason, which, again, none of that matters. I mean, you look at individual stuff for preseason instead of the total results. So, we just want to come on here and quickly recap what we saw from this Clippers game, and then, we'll kind of put a bow on the preseason the next time we come on here from an overall perspective. So, DJ, we'll get to PJ Washington here in a second. We'll get to, some of the people that I've seen online freaking out over Klay Thompson and his his shooting woes so far. But I want to start out with Quentin Grimes.
Yes.
Because Quentin Grimes, he's been active the entire preseason so far, and he's shown, his ability to stay energetic on the defensive end, and he's kind of a more refined version of what Josh Green was, which is exactly what the Mavs were looking for. But Quentin Grimes, he was awesome last night. Played 22 minutes, scored 20 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, had a block, and shot 7 of 11 overall, hit 3 of his 7 threes, and 3 of 3 from the free throw line. So very active for Quentin Grimes. He looks great. His shot looks great. He's only 24 years old, and, he's going into a contract year. So not only does he have, the motivation of just wanting to prove himself in general because he hasn't been able to, stick in one spot and stay in a rotation, as much as probably he'd like to, but he also has that extra motivating factor of being in a contract year too. So I think all of that benefits the Mavs. What do you think about Quentin Grimes?
I know that we call Najee Marshall the knife, but Quentin Grimes has a lot of those same characteristics. He can do a little bit of everything on the floor. Obviously, the scoring stands out right away. His efficiency in scoring was also a pretty standout factor. But it's like you said, he's everywhere on the court, it seems. Incredibly energetic, really good motor. I think that he's a starter caliber player.
Yeah.
But he just so happens to be in such a deep stable of perimeter players that he will likely come off the bench this year. But I was incredibly impressed with him. And the thing is, he wasn't even getting the type of shots that he will get whenever Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are both taking the floor at the same time. And that kind of leads into the whole Klay Thompson issue and really even Najee Marshall. Is these guys, they're not getting the type of threes that they're going to be getting whenever Luka specifically is on the floor, playing in that pick and roll style offense. So again, we don't need to freak out about anything that's going on. Just appreciate what you're seeing for the moment, and understand that these guys are playing in situations that you're not going to see in the regular season. I mean, for instance, Kidd was trying out some zone defense. I don't think you're going to see that in the regular season either.
I don't think so.
Preseason is all about tinkering and experimentation. That's all it is, and really to stir up some buzz as well, and to give guys opportunities to kind of introduce themselves to their new fan bases, so to speak. I don't think it's correct to overreact in either way.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I mean, you this is the time, and we've said this in previous pods, but preseason is the time to experiment. It's the time to give guys a little bit more on their plate than what they're going to have in the regular season. And then when the regular season starts and you have Luka and Kyrie and, the full slate of guys playing, and you reduce those players' roles from what you experimented with in preseason, they'll settle in. They'll feel more comfortable within that role because, you've already tried to, put more on their plate. And now you're dialing it back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, it should work out well for the Mavs. But yeah, I'm with you. Quentin Grimes, he's going to be a guy. He's going to be, like you said, he's going to come off the bench. But, I could foresee a situation like, say, Klay Thompson, and, Klay Thompson, he's not shooting the ball well right now. He hasn't played with Luka yet either. But he was 0 of 9 in that game last night, had 3 rebounds, 1 assist, only played 21 minutes. So, he's in a funk. But I mean, again, it's preseason. I mentioned this in one of our group chats earlier. I remember back when the Mavs traded for Josh Richardson, and before that particular season started, Josh Richardson shot 60% from 3 in the preseason. And everybody was like, oh my God, the Mavs really did something getting Josh Richardson in there. And then he proceeded to shoot I think it was 30% from 3 for the entire season, and just wasn't very good.
Exactly. And it goes on the other, the completely different end of the spectrum too. I mean, James Harden for the most part was abysmal last night, but I guarantee you James Harden will be an all-star. As much as I dislike him, I guarantee you James Harden will be an all-star. So preseason, it's just, you can't really put much stock into what you see in either direction. And I think if you want to go ahead and talk about Klay, I really think that a lot of Klay's issues came from him doing too much and being forced to do too much. There were some lineups that you'd see him in where he would be the secondary guard. That's entirely too much ball handling responsibility for Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is someone that you run off screens and you find for set shots, you find for set looks, to where he just sets his feet and fires. And he never really got that. He didn't get that many of those looks last night because he didn't really have anyone out there to take that much attention away from him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I know it's almost cliche to say at this point, but I don't feel like a lot of people don't realize just how much of a difference Luka makes. It doesn't matter how talented the rest of the roster is past Luka or past Kyrie. You add Luka into the mix, and that's the engine for everything. That's the engine that makes all this work. So, as talented as the Mavs roster is, as deep as the Mavs roster is, Luka is the one that's going to make everything work, at its peak level. And we have yet to see that yet. And he's fine. I mean, I've heard from multiple people that he's fine. They're just not, there's no reason to risk furthering that, or re-aggravating that calf strain, in a preseason game. We know what Luka can do. So
you don't want a Paul George situation. That's for sure.
Right. You want him fully healthy for that Victor Wembanyama showdown in the first game of the season.
And I do think he's okay. I mean, we saw him. I watched a little bit of the pregame thing on NBA on League Pass, and you can just look at the court and see what's going on. And pregame, he was out there playing 1-on-1 with I don't know who it was, but it was somebody out there.
Probably God Sham God.
It was probably God Sham guy. He looked like a little dude, but yeah. He looked like he was moving well in that. He was moving well. He was moving better in that little episode that I was watching than he was in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's something.
And look, I know people will listen to this. Well, if any non-Mavs fans listen to this, they'll probably say that we're coping. But I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to cope when I say that Klay Thompson's defense has looked great so far through multiple games now. So I'm very encouraged by that. That was one of the things that, coming into this season, a lot of people thought he was washed on that end. He doesn't look like he's washed on that end. He's making a concerted effort to, stay in front of guys, move his feet. Even if they get past him, he's working hard to, contest after that. And it's made a difference several times too. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing from Klay on the defensive end. And I think once Luka gets thrown back into the mix and he's not having to throw up, as many contested shots as he has, I think it's all going to come together for him.
Exactly. Note the word contested, because that's what the majority of his looks have been.
Yep.
Because he has been the point of attack on offense. That's what I mean. He draws all the attention. In some of these lineups, he has literally drawn pretty much 90% of the attention. So, it's like you said, it's completely different whenever you throw Luka out there. And I hope people understand that. And I know some people do not, but here's the reality, guys. You have one of the best passers, if not the best passer in the history of the league, not in the lineup right now. It's going to affect you negatively.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's natural.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for the regular season to start so we can, have some tangible proof to put behind that, because I feel like people have forgotten. But once Luka steps on the court and, we're able to show, top to bottom of this roster just how good, how deep they are and how it's all going to work, that's going to be quite satisfying. I'm ready for it. I hope they come out, guns blazing in that San Antonio game. But
it'll be interesting. Interesting.
So we got to talk about PJ Washington. We got to talk about Derek Lively, and then we're going to talk about a couple of young guards that have continued to play well throughout this preseason. But first, we need to pay a few bills. So we will be right back. What's up, y'all? We're taking a quick break to tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Want to play PrizePicks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code STEPBACK to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code STEPBACK on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, guys. So we talked about it before the break there, but we got to get into PJ Washington a little bit because it was our first time seeing him this preseason, and man, did he look good. He looks physically ready, in shape. He showed off what he was running real good in transition. There was one move in particular I remember in the first half where he Euro stepped past a guy in transition and dunked on him.
Yeah.
It was very nice to see. So, in 19 minutes, cold turkey for for PJ Washington after the offseason. He had 10 points, shot 4 of 7, hit one of his 2 threes, had 3 rebounds, 3 steals, and a block. Very active defensively. He showed off his post moves a few times. And, I was very impressed by what we saw from PJ because, last year he was such a vital piece for the Mavs in their run to the NBA Finals, mostly on the defensive end. He did have that one, explosive offensive series against OKC during that run, but defensively he was consistent throughout. And we always said, he was only with the team for half the season, and now having a full off season under his belt and starting his first full season with the Mavs, he should naturally be better offensively. And we saw some, flashes of that in the Mavs Clippers preseason game on Monday night. So I'm very excited about PJ. Now, obviously, in the second half, he didn't handle the ball as well as he did in the first half. But again, that kind of falls into the basket of guys having overextended roles with Luka and Kyrie out. But overall, I was very excited about PJ Washington and just how he looked physically in that game.
Yeah, no, he looked really good physically. I thought early in the game he did a pretty good job of handling the ball. It's just I don't think that's truthfully his natural forte, but he's getting better. But what really impressed me about PJ Washington was the way his jump shot looked. It looks a lot more fluid. It looks a lot more effortless. It's not as stiff as it used to be. It just looks a lot more natural. So if that becomes a truly consistent part of his game, watch out because that he could help out a lot.
Yeah.
Because what's the type of shot that we get the most out of our offense, or one of them at least? Corner threes, right?
Yep.
So the more the merrier. He'll just be added to that long list of Mavericks that are good at shooting that shot.
And look, I understand that we have talked a lot about Klay Thompson being the Mavs, third scorer on this team. There is a timeline, I think, going forward, if things break the right way, where PJ Washington could be that guy. He has the potential.
Yeah.
He's still young. He's 25 years old. He has that potential to be, a third scorer type of guy on a championship contending team. But, we'll just have to see how it goes because, when you have two guys like Luka and Kyrie who get a bunch of shots, they score a bunch, your role is always going to be limited at least a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm thrilled with what I saw from PJ Washington. And then just branching off of that, another dude who has looked physically ready and, looks like he's ready to have a breakout second year is Derek Lively. And we've already talked about him, in the previous couple of preseason games, but, he has added some muscle. He is more confident around the basket. The most underrated part of his game, which you've alluded to on previous episodes, is his passing. He just has a good feel for the game overall. And man, I cannot wait to see what Lively can do, with Luka and Kyrie and Klay and PJ in that starting lineup for the Mavs when the season starts. But in 24 minutes against the Clippers, he had 8 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. So he's doing right there. Yeah, he's doing a little bit of everything, making the most of his time. And, that's something that I think is going to be the norm for him going forward because he is just – I can't say enough good things about Derek Lively and just how good he's been, since the Mavs drafted him. Still only 20 years old, which is wild to me. He's come such a long way in such a short period of time. And, it's only going to continue to get better because I think he's in the best situation he could have ever asked for coming out of Duke. It's just been a perfect fit all around. So very excited for Lively. What do you think about his performance? Because, Zubac is still, he still has the advantage on Lively as far as size. There was a couple times where he got his back on him deep in the paint, and he gave up a couple of, inside hooks and stuff like that. But overall, I think he did a really good job.
Until Lively truthfully puts on a few years worth of muscle. Now, keep in mind, he's not done growing. He's still a very young guy. But once he really fills out, this won't be an issue. But until that happens, he's going to have some problems dealing with physically superior opponents. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Zubac is the better player, because he's not. But it's like you said, he has a physical advantage that he can exploit for now. But it isn't always going to be that way, I don't think. Just judging by how much weight Lively has put on in such a short amount of time, I don't think that that's going to be an issue, later on down the line, probably within the next 2 to 3 years. I will say this. What's interesting, like we talk about who's going to be the third scorer for the Mavs, that could change nightly. I'm going to be honest.
I agree.
And that's a good thing. Some nights it could be Klay, some nights it could be PJ, some nights it could be Lively, some nights it could be Daniel Gafford or Quentin Grimes, or even Najee Marshall off the bench. Hell, sometimes Spencer Dinwiddie might go for a day. I mean, who the hell knows? It literally will change by the night, and that's honestly a good thing because it makes you harder to scout for.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree, and one thing that we're not factoring in here is how Maxi Kleba hasn't played this entire postseason. I don't think anything's like really wrong with Maxi. I think they're just kind of preserving him because they know his injury history.
Yeah.
And you don't want something to happen in preseason when nothing really matters that much. So I think they're just kind of playing it safe with Maxi, because he's one of those guys where he's not going to provide a lot on the stat sheet, but he has such a profound impact defensively when he's fully healthy that, if you can get to the postseason and have him, fully healthy to throw in there, it's going to make everybody else's job easier around him. And, that's what I look at. So, I mean, I kind of went off into a rabbit hole there, but, like you said, it could be anybody on any given night that could be the Mavs' third scorer, and that speaks to how deep they are from top to bottom of the roster. I mean, it's really been a great job roster building by Nico Harrison and the rest of the front office. And like I said, there's players like Maxi and Luka, and there's just guys that haven't really been a real part of this preseason so far that are going to have a huge impact on the season as it progresses, in my opinion. So
absolutely.
One other thing I want to talk about here, and we talked about Jazzy and Gortman on the last episode, but he continues to impress. I mean, he and Hardy both, really. Jaden Hardy has been impressive, even though his ball handling hasn't progressed as much as we would like to see. But both of them have been very solid. And if anything, Jaden Hardy, who is also in a contract year, he could potentially be trade bait, as we've talked about in some of our other group chats, if the Mavs don't want to sign him to a new contract. But, he's been solid. Gortman is very interesting. And like I said on the last episode, I feel like he's going to take one of the Mavs' two-way spots. But, he's a 6'2" guard. But as I found out last night, I didn't know this, he has a 6'9" wingspan.
That's crazy.
Just long as hell. So, he's very active. He's a pesky defender. He shot 3 of 5 from 3 last night. He shot the 3 ball well the entire postseason. Had 13 points in 28 minutes, 2 rebounds, didn't have any assists, but he's just one of those guys that, 21 years old, he has good length, even though he's a little bit smaller for a guard, height wise. But I don't see how the Mavs come out of this preseason and go into the regular season without this guy on a 2-way contract, because, and I mean, you could, Kessler Edwards, he hasn't played the entire preseason. I don't know if he's hurt or what the deal is with him, but You got Kessler Edwards on the two-way. He hasn't played the entire preseason. Brandon Williams, he hasn't played until last night.
Yep.
Got 18 minutes, but only shot 3 of 10 overall. He's on a two-way. I feel like it's an easy decision to give Gortman one of those two-way contracts just so you keep him around, because he's younger than both of those players, and you want to keep young talent with potential around. You don't want to, not offer him something like that and then he goes somewhere else and pops off. So,
Right.
I think Gortman has played well, and I think the Mavs should keep him.
No, the guy is he's kind of got that microwave effect going. You can throw him in there and he'll get you a bucket or two. The main thing that concerns me about Gortman, and I think that this will improve with time and experience, is the ability to run a team. You look at that assist total, that's very concerning for a lead guard. That can't happen at the highest level. But, I mean, if you're going to sign him to a two-way contract, and he's going to be spending time with the Texas Legends, he'll be able to develop that facet of his game. But that's the next step for him, is to be able to really run a team and not just be able to hunt his own shots and create his own shots, but create for others as well. And he's had moments where he's looked good distributing. I mean, it's there. The eyes are there. The vision is there. It's just a nuance that you have to acclimate to as a point guard.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I try not to, because a lot of people, like my guy Kirk Henderson at Mavs Moneyball, he doesn't care as much, to talk about potential two-way guys, into the roster guys and all that. And I get that. But my eyes also tell me, hey, I need to be paying a little bit of attention to this guy, because he's just played so well consistently through the postseason. And I mean, look, we saw flashes of that from him in Vegas during Summer League too. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's been able to carry over, what we saw in Vegas and arguably play even better now in preseason play, I don't think it's something you can ignore given his age. Because, that's what you want from these two-way spots, not just, overall talent, but you want upside too. And the fact that he is 3 years younger than Brandon Williams, I think this makes it a pretty easy choice for the Mavs. And like I said, even if it's not Brandon Williams, Kessler Edwards, we don't know what's going on with that situation, but he hasn't played in any of these preseason games. So look, that's going to do it for this one. Just wanted to come on here and, give our biggest takeaways from that specific game against the Clippers. Very first game ever played at Intuit Dome, ever. So, Mavs are part of history there. They ended the Clippers' time at, I still call it Staples Center, even though it's Crypto.com Arena now. But they ended the Clippers' time there with a loss. So I thought they would open up, the Clippers' time at the new arena with a loss. But hey, what can you do when you're down so many guys in a preseason? It doesn't matter.
Nobody cares. It doesn't even count.
It was a cool experience, I'm sure, for them though. So We'll see. The Mavs are getting close to the end of the preseason, and we're down to single-digit days until opening night against the Spurs. It's coming up quick. It's going to be great. I did have an announcement I was going to make. I'm going to save it for the next one because, it's coming toward the end of the month here. And so that'll kind of be my cliffhanger for y'all to come back for the next episode, because I have a big announcement on things that are going to be changing for me, personally going forward with my media stuff. So y'all be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, and be sure to go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts. Even if you don't listen on Apple Podcasts and you have an iPhone, go to Apple Podcasts, find us, leave a review, and you'll be entered for a chance to win future giveaways. We're giving away 2 of our New Lob City / Dallas Dunks t-shirts later this week. We'll be giving 2 of those away Thursday. So you still have time. Go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and put some way of us to notify you, whether it's your email or social media and we'll be sure to contact you if you win our drawing. So, guys, look, we appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And try not to stress too much about the Mavs being 0-3 in preseason because none of this matters. Luka hasn't played. Guys are knocking off rust. And, Jason Kidd is just experimenting with different combinations and just seeing what he has from individual guys. And, so far, like last night with Quentin Grimes, you can see the potential there. So don't stress about it too much. But we'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.